Now, to bring more insight into this discourse, I have joining me in our Lagos studio the Ogun State Manager, Osmed and Bumi Dauda. Good to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about one of the sectors where you played big at this point in time, looking at the MSME space. Now, with the latest meeting we've had from the MPC, credit to the real sector of the economy has increased well over 19.5 trillion naira. But at this point in time, the nation is in recession. We need much more catalysts. We need more stimulus. We need more injection of liquidity in the market. Access to funding remains one of the biggest issues small, medium-sized enterprises face. Doing a comparative analysis of what we've seen within the COVID-19 intervention fund and what is expected now that the country is in recession, how do we juxtapose the goals we have to set for the MSME space?
Honestly and truly, this is a very big one for SMEs, MSMEs generally in Nigeria. Bad as it may be from beginning, you know, we're still struggling. MSMEs are struggling. Now with the pandemic, with I mean, some other little factors that have contributed to, you know, the downturn, a lot of things needs to be done. First of all, I think there should be a restructuring. MSME contribute a lot.
Over 91% to the GDP of the country.
And not only GDP and employment, 80%. They contribute a lot. So government needs to come back to the table. I know there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and you know it's one step after the other. Okay, CBN, Ministry of Finance, SMIDAN, we're all putting all hands on deck to make sure that this works out. But having said that, I think the first step for us to take is to first restructure the MSME space.
When you say restructure the MSME space, what does that mean?
Well, let me say that, you know, of course it's divided into the formal and the informal sector. Yeah, the informal sector is much more. That's why we have this major problem, because they just feel that, look, a lot of things, a reorientation, that's what I mean. A lot of things need to be in play. Tax issues, finance issues, information issues, you know. So if all these are harmonized and then the restructuring starts, MSME gets up-to-date information, you know, it's just the MSMEs within the urban area that gets first-hand information.
Now, let's also talk about working with big data. Now, to have strategic developmental agenda reach every single area that it ought to, we need to work with big data. Now, the assumption is that we have well over 40 million SMEs in the country at this point in time, but we've not had an update to that figure. So we cannot necessarily say we are planning for the MSME space when we don't have a clear understanding of what has been the growth in these numbers or not.
Exactly, you're right. This is also part of the information I'm talking about. Okay? If we're able to get data, working with data makes it easy. Okay, but now SMIDAN is doing registration of companies. Okay, unfortunately, I think there's a little snag there, because if you're not registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, your registration with SMIDAN to say that okay, you're a registered business would not go. So invariably, it means that you need to go register with Corporate Affairs Commission before you come back and register with SMIDAN and get a SMIDAN unique identification number. And then some benefits or interventions from government can now reach your SMEs. I also feel that those that are not registered with Corporate Affairs Commission, there should be an open arm for them to come in.
So you're saying this is a current bottleneck?
Exactly, you know. Well, a lot of things are being done to look into that, and you know, not necessarily going online. There's the online form also comes in, you know, hard copy, where they can fill when some of them don't have, you know, those details of yeah. So now because of that. Under the Survivor Fund, the registration of companies for micro and small enterprises is coming up, and then people are, you know, submitting application, filing application for them to be registered. So I think it's a gradual thing too, and it's coming up.
In your interaction with MSMEs at this point in time, with your role as a as a representative of SMED, and what has been one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to accessing funds. Now, there is the notion that, for example, interventions from the CBN or the Bank of Industry and much more, the funds do not necessarily get to the roots, those that largely need it, that there are unnecessary bottlenecks just to stifle or weed out certain elements. And these certain elements are the ones that largely fall into the informal sector fuel any sort of growth we see.
I think the major problem, first of all, there's no program or government or even a private organization that doesn't have process. You must go through the process. Submit your application, go for interview, submit your pro forma invoice. So there's a process. And most of them just feel that, okay, when I submit this application now, when am I getting the money? I know they are impatient. They want the money, they want quick thing. But again, it goes through process, which also part of the major bottleneck is the information dissemination. Is a very, very difficult thing for us to let them understand. So, of course, we can't, adjust the process. No, we can't alter the process. That's what I mean. But we should let them know that there's a process to it, and then if they follow the process, they'll definitely get it. And
central banks across the globe are also looking at stimulus that we can have in terms of fiscal and monetary stimulus to the economy. We're also seeing that being mimicked by the Central Bank of Nigeria. But there are some of the sectors of the economy that performed quite well despite seeing a smaller level of contraction in terms of our GDP performance compared to the second quarter of the year. We look at the ICT space, we look at manufacturing, we look at agriculture and the construction space as well.
Exactly.
How much of an investment plan do you think we should now have going forward in terms of creating a smoother growth trajectory for these sectors of the economy?
A fantastic question, but I feel that first thing to do is have some sort of shock absorber for this group of people, group of MSMEs, and then when there's something to fall back on, there's every need for them to move forward.
Well, I'm sure you're aware with the finance bill, we have also undergoing engagements as well. We are not expecting new taxes, and the clause there is that we're not also expecting new tax waivers.
Exactly. So for these, we just have to choose. We just have to go with one. We just have to go with the best. Okay. Let's first of all know that there's no tax waivers. So whatever is available
is existing now. Is what to play out for 2021.
Exactly, 2021. So let's start working. I predict that in 2021, first 6 months might be a bit tight, but afterwards it will ease out because some of us we adapt a lot. MSME, they adapt a lot, so they will go through it. And then, get there. And I'm sure the growth will come.
And talking about the growth process, we also expect to see going through the mill, the painstaking efforts, and then coming out with a bounce back. Now, it's critical for MSMEs not to work in silos in terms of managing resources, cost-cutting measures. The earlier guest I had, we were still talking about cost-cutting measures for the aviation sector. Now, for the MSME space, especially within agriculture, construction, manufacturing, information, communication, technology, how do we now create hubs whereby they have to share resources? For example, one of the biggest challenges so many MSMEs face is the issue of power. Is the issue of access to resources, raw materials. How do we create smaller hubs instead of working in silos?
Yeah, in the past, Sweden has been, forefront in advocating for this. There has been collaboration with international organizations like UNIDO that brings in some sort of support for MSMEs, like the CFC, Common Facility Centers for them, so that it's easier for them to work as a group, or there's a facility for a group of people, and then they take turns in using it to produce whatever they need to. So we could also build on that, okay? liaise with those international organizations or private sector that can give, such support for SMEs, and then before we know it, something good come out of it. So I feel that MSMEs support in this line could be, it could be we relate with, collaborate with those international organizations and some private sector in Nigeria and see how we can provide equipment, access to road, power, resources. I am also aware that there's a business membership organization in Ogun State that is partnering with the German government to provide power for, a cluster group, and those that make palm kernel oil. And this kind of arrangement or collaboration is encouraged. And so it's more or less like a partnership, and it will go a long way in helping the MSMEs, get to that point where we want them to be.
Well, hopefully we just continue to see that we create a blueprint that works. We would like to see improved skill acquisition. We would like to see a thriving business environment. All of the issues of taxation, multiple taxation that continue to become bottlenecks that kill businesses. We just hope that all of these are addressed, and then we have a plan that really works.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for your time on the show today, Bumi Dowdy. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
Well, we'll take a quick break now.